Hello and welcome to another episode of Smart English Live. I'm your teacher Joshua. How's everybody doing today? We got a lot of great comments in the chat so far saying, hello, how are you? For some of us it's in the morning, like here, I've got my coffee. For some of us it's the evening or afternoon or late at night, and everybody's here to learn English together. So thank you for being here. If it is your Sarbajit likes my hairstyle, thank you. It's what I call messed up. Right? It's nice and easy. But welcome everybody, wherever you are, whenever you are. Thank you for being here in class. So it's morning here. Like I said, I have my coffee. I'm ready to go over the second edition, the second episode of Smart Live class, talking about Guy de Maupassant's The Necklace. And I have class notes from last class that I'm going to bring up, and we can kind of review to remind ourselves, if you were here before, what we were doing. If you weren't here before, you can watch the video later. It's in our YouTube channel. You can also, it's evening in Moscow right now. Okay, so we're flip-flopped, right? We're also going to, so we're going to go over the notes. You can watch the video previously, the previous video if you like, and review. If it's your first time though, say hi. Usually we have 1 or 2 new students each week, which is great. If you have friends that you think might like this class, you can chat with them. Tell them. They don't have to even be in the same city or house or anything as you. It doesn't have to be your brother in the next room. It can be your neighbor or your friend that you met while traveling. Just email them, message them, send them a link. I'll say hi personally. I'll give a shout out to any friends you have that you want to invite to the class. And then you can send them this video and they'll be like, oh, well, he said hi, I should probably check it out. So yes, we're going to review notes. We're going to start with that. And then we're going to go into the next episode of talking about The Necklace. So what do you guys remember about the story The Necklace? Answer me in the chat there. What do you remember that we talked about last time? It's a short story. It is an older story. It was written by a citizen of France. So we know basic facts. What we talked about last time is we talked about understanding the author a little bit, understanding the story, by considering who the author was, the audience, but we didn't really go into detail about it. Bharat, it's okay, you're not late, we're just starting, so no problem. I'm going to dive into the lesson actually right now. So here is the lesson. This is The Necklace. Let me review our notes from last week. I had a pronunciation note. Maupassant. So Guy de Maupassant. Thank you, French Leo, again for, in the chat as well. Thank you for the pronunciation tip. So I wanted to talk about metacognition. The word metacognition. Metacognition, if you don't know what this word is or if it's a new word for you, check it out. Metacognition is thinking about thinking. It is considering and reflecting on our own abilities to think, which changes the way we learn. So it's looking at things outside of our specific lesson or outside of our specific understanding of how to be a good student. Metacognition is a word that just means thinking about thinking at its most fundamental level. What we want to do is we want to become better students with every lesson. So not only do we want to learn about this story, analyze its contents, and maybe compose a good written analysis and synthesis of this and maybe more information, but we want to, here I'll link the notes for you right here. Those are the notes for today's class. We want to consider learning this lesson, yes, but also becoming better learners as we go. It's kind of a neat process where every time you learn something new, you also become a better learner. But there are ways to improve each instance of learning. So yes, you're naturally going to become a better learner through experience, experiential learning, life experience, right? But if we reflect and we analyze and we sort of consider every experience, every learning moment in terms of trying to maximize, trying to get the most out of our learning, then we can grow even more. That's the idea of Smart English. We take kind of the best of the best, we condense it into one locale, one place where it's one-stop shopping. Hey, here's all of your English learning needs, and we put it all together for you so that you're getting the most for your time. Okay, so that is the link to the notes. If you're a premium subscriber, you can edit these notes with me. You can get copies of them. That's just a taste if you're not a premium subscriber. I'll share all the notes, all the lessons. You have access to everything. For instance, these links that have the information in them as well. We looked at this one last week. It is an introduction to the necklace, an introduction to Mr. Maupassant and his wonderful story. I wanted to go over an approach for academic reading with you. Now, I'm going to go over one approach. This is what has worked for my students in the past with our schedule, our timetable for learning. You may have less time or more time, so you can augment and change this as you like. What I suggest to my students is first start out on the macro level, right? What class are we in? What are we studying? So let's pretend, since this is English for academic purposes, and we're trying to prepare you for English that you will use in science classes, English that you will use in history classes, English that you will use in mathematics and literature and in the business world, in presentations, in business meetings. If you don't have access to it, I will change the access after class. For now, don't worry about it. You don't have to take notes. I will take notes for you, with you on the screen here, and then I'll give you all access afterwards if that link doesn't work. Don't worry about it. So again, we're preparing you for all these different English purposes, right? But it's all academic. And let's pretend for today that we are in an English 101 class, an introduction to literature. And your teacher assigns you this story, okay? This story, first we want to know, it's a literature class, so we can assume that this story is canonized fiction. This is a story that has been popular or is very popular for years and years and years for one reason or another. And it's fiction. It's not true information. It's invented information, imaginary information. It's a story that usually has a deeper meaning, either an allegorical meaning. We talked about allegorical novella last class a little bit with the story Animal Farm, which maybe we will teach in this class someday. And so this is the basic information. Our short story is titled The Necklace, so we can make predictions about what it's going to be about. A necklace is a piece of jewelry traditionally worn by women in French and American culture. I would say that that's true. So the title of a story usually has something to do with the story. We can make guesses sometimes from the title. And then we have these sort of introductory questions we talked about. Have you ever made a mistake that changed your life in an incredible, significant way? In an incredible, significant way. So, have you made a mistake, an error that has changed your life? And then if you've made a horrible mistake that involved another person and they didn't know, would you tell them right away? Or would you try to fix the problem yourself? So 2 questions there, right? Have you ever made a mistake that changed your life? And if you made a mistake that affected another person, it involved another person, would you tell them right away? Or would you try to fix the problem? So the answer to question number 1, I never want to assume, but I think that it's reasonable to believe that all of us have made a mistake in life that has changed our life. Mistakes change our life for better and for worse. But this is kind of a leading question a little bit. It's kind of like saying, have you ever felt happy or have you ever felt sad? We all make mistakes, and those mistakes do change our life. But this next one is a little more specific. It's still something I think we can all relate to. But the reason we're asking these questions, metacognition, thinking about thinking, the reason we're asking these questions is to get thinking about general ideas that might be related to the story, and we're attaching that information to our own personal experiences, our own personal life. There's research that has been done in education that shows if you can attach new information to existing information, things that you are already familiar with, and this is neurobiology too. If you can attach new information to existing information, you improve your ability to recall that information later. You improve your memory retention. So, let's answer these in the chat. Some of you have already started to. Fabio says, some mistakes I would tell them right away, but other mistakes I still have to make amends for. So making amends is a little bit different than trying to fix the problem before you tell them. If you want to make amends, it means you want to fix the problem, but maybe they already know. This question is a little bit different. It is asking, if you imagine you make a really bad mistake, and then you have the option to tell the person, or don't tell them, keep it a secret, and try to fix it really quick so that you can be like, oh, hey, I made a mistake, but I fixed it, so it's not a big deal. What would you do there? So Fabio, please, with the new question, would you, if you mess up, if you make a mistake, would you say right away, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I messed up? Or would you try to quickly fix it so that you could say, oh, hey, I made a mistake, but I fixed it, don't worry. Sway says, some mistakes I would tell if necessary, but other mistakes should be my own. So if you mess up, you're like, nobody needs to know about that. Alash says, if the person is the kind of person who is wise and acts in a good manner under difficult circumstances, then yeah, I will tell him right away so we can have more brains working. Very reasonable, very intelligent answer, Alash. Thank you, I like that. Yeah, so Alash says, it depends. If that person is understanding and if they don't freak out if I make a mistake, then yeah, sure, I will tell them. And then both of us can fix it together. I think that's a very intelligent way to act, Alash. Good job. Good job being a human being. Fabio says, got it. Okay, so I'm still waiting for your answer, Fabio. French Leo says, if the people do not know, I'm correcting some of your grammar mistakes as I read your questions. So when you listen to what I speak, please read your question also and note any changes in grammar I make. French Leo says, if the people do not know that our mistake hurt them, maybe the best way is to step around the issue. I mean, by that, if there's a mistake, if the mistake is not a question of life, I think you mean life or death maybe. So if it's not very serious, if it doesn't really hurt anybody, if I make a mistake and nobody notices, what's the harm? Why should I tell them? Here's an example that I can think of. Let's say that you and 10 of your friends are going to have a party, a festival of some sort, right? You're going to get together, and each of you is responsible for bringing a specific thing, right? One person brings chairs, one person brings food, one person brings drinks, one person brings whatever else. If there's 10 things and your responsibility was to bring something that's very small, not a very essential part, like maybe you were going to bring 2 different kinds of music and you only brought one kind of music, right? Nobody notices, and it doesn't really hurt anybody that there's only one kind of music. Everybody seems happy. Why, even though you were asked to bring multiple kinds of music, why bring it up? Why point out your own mistake? I get that. Yeah, there's situations where that could be true. JB says, I usually can remember much of the stuff I read or learned, but I'm not good at articulating that memory. So JB's going back to memorizing things and improving our cognition and memory retention. That's okay. It's a constant progressive thing. We're always learning, including learning how to learn. Okay, I do have my coffee sweat. Okay, for Fabio says, some people may flip out for the smallest things. You use the word flip, but the phrasal verb slang, meaning not be emotionally stable, is flip out. Some people flip out or freak out over the smallest things, so I don't tell them right away. Yeah, a lot of this depends on the other person, right? What kind of personality do they have? Hacker's Pride, Sarbajit says, I will share with someone who is helpful and understands me. Bharat says, because of my mistake, if I get someone hurt, then I have to fix it and I need to accept it. Fabio is with Alash. I agree. I like Alash's response and Hacker's Pride's response. I think that you guys have a good understanding of that. Okay. So I'm going to move forward. This is great conversation. What we're doing is we're introducing the main topic. The next thing that we know about the story, and I'm going to bring this up, the next thing that we know about the story is the author's name. Now, I think it's important when we are doing I'm going to define our vocab here. Thinking about thinking, or learning about learning. Okay? Hopefully that will remind you of our conversation there. So, steps to become more analytical readers. Academic readers, right? And don't worry, I'm going to make the font a little bit bigger here and make this full screen. After I just need to, there we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, so you can probably see that now. So metacognition is thinking about thinking, and steps to become more analytical academic readers. So first of all, we want to consider our environment. Okay, so what I mean by this is what class, project, situation is this reading for? Examples here could be literature class, business proposal, biology lecture, summary. There's a million different things that this could be. Movie script. Okay, you're going to read these differently, knowing the situation, knowing the environment. Another word for environment is context. Okay, knowing the context, knowing the environment is important. So we want to consider our context, our environment. What is this for? Why are we reading this? You're going to read a movie script differently than you're going to read literature or a business proposal. A business proposal, you're going to want very formal language. A movie script, you might want very casual language. So you want to be familiar with that situation, that context. Because if you read something very technical in a movie script, you know that movie is probably going to be a serious movie. If you read something very casual, maybe it's a more comedic thing. You can kind of get an idea of the bigger writing piece from small details at first. So, target audience. Shukuri says, target audience. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at too. We are, we're thinking of our environment, our context. I'm going to get to target audience. We're also thinking of who is the author. Okay? Who is the author? The author could be any number of people. Is it a political figure? That's going to change how you read something, right? Is it a political figure? Is it a celebrity? Is it a established writer? Is it your professor? Who is this person that wrote this? Is it a criminal? Okay? Is it a political figure that is also a criminal? These could be huge to our understanding. Now, if I'm reading, let's say, a nonfiction piece in a sociology class, and it is written by a criminal who is sentenced for life in prison because they did something terrible. It's very obvious they did something terrible. And then they are writing a book that says, oh, I did not do that terrible thing, when there's tons of evidence, video, footage of them committing a crime. And then they are writing a book saying, no, I didn't do that. Are you going to trust what is in that book? Is there reliability there? Is it a credible source? Who is the author is important. Because every single thing that was ever written in any language was written by people who make mistakes, right? So since we make mistakes, and since we all have flaws, right? Like, I would doubt anybody has been honest 100% of their life. So whether we know it or not, we might write things that are more or less true, right? If it's fiction, that's the idea. In literature, we know from the get-go, oh, this is invented. This is fiction. So we look at it differently. If it is a political figure, we're trying to believe what they say, but we know that politicians lie to get what they want. If it's a celebrity, they live a lifestyle that is under cameras and recorded all the time, and it's just a different situation, right? Your professors hopefully are dedicated to their studies and try to research and analyze and then give their work and research to their peers to critique and change. So I'm more likely to trust something that is written by an established professor, a seasoned professional in their field, than I am a celebrity or a political figure. So the reliability depends on the author. Like Feynman for quantum mechanics. Yes. Yeah, if Stephen Hawking writes something about physics, I'm going to trust that it's pretty accurate. To err is human. Yes, true. Okay, so we have to think about, again, our context, the environment, where it was written. Who is the author? What was this person like? We also want to consider the audience. Okay? So I'm going to go back to the criminal example. Is it a criminal that's defending themselves? Is it something that was written to try to get somebody out of prison? Like if I write an appeal for a crime, that is meant to go to the people that are trying to set me free. A criminal could also write and brag about their crimes to another criminal in prison. That would be different. Their audience, they're talking to their friends, right? Is the audience a friend? Is the audience do they have an opposing viewpoint or perspective? Is it a peer, or is it what would the other word be? Is it competition? Competition or opposing viewpoint. So I go back to politicians also, right? If a politician is making a statement that they know their followers will listen to, it's going to be a little different than a statement they make to people who they don't believe follow them yet, right? So is it a peer? Is it someone who thinks the same with similar beliefs? Or is it for competition, somebody that has opposing viewpoints? Is it for the other side of the argument? There are more possibilities too, but I think the important takeaway here is consider the audience, consider the author, and consider the environment. Actually, I think I want to do that reversed. That's kind of hard on the eyes. So we're going to consider the author, the environment or the context, and the audience. So what can we do? Let's learn a little bit about our author. So we see our author. We had some pre-reading questions here too. We don't have time to go over them today. But all of you premium subscribers, you got these already. Many of you sent your homework. If you haven't sent your homework, please send it. Share it with me. I'll still correct it. But I've responded to your answers to these prompts. So our story, Guy de Maupassant, we have the author's name right here. So we can do an initial search. I'm just going to bring up Wikipedia for now. Wikipedia is not the be-all, end-all of research, but it is a good starting point, I think. I think it's a nice starting point to get basic, general information that is pretty accurate. So here's the author's full name, a little bit about the biography. So it's responsible to read about this person. When did they live? August 5th, 1850. When did they die? July 6th, 1893. This person was only 42 years old, so they lived a young life. So this is a long time ago, and this person lived in Paris, in France. So it's the context of the situation of France. So let's write these down. Let's take notes together for the necklace and the author. We're going to write notes about those three things. This is author information. So we want to look at environment, author, and audience. Okay? So we have the environment. We have the context, right? The environment was twofold. The environment is 19th century France. Okay? That is when the author lived. That is also when the story took place. So we have two kinds. We have the context for when the piece was written. This is real life. And then two, we have the context of the story itself. And that's the setting of the story. Okay? So the context for when the piece was written, this is real life. This is when the author sat down and wrote the story. The context of the story is the setting. When does the story take place? Now this is difficult because in fiction, it can be the same thing, and in this case it is. The writer wrote the story in 19th century France. The story takes place in 19th century France. For history, for historical documents, for biographies and autobiographies, these are always the same. They are, well, that's not true. An example of a biography, it could be written well after the person lived. So maybe the contemporary situation, the writer is writing about someone who lived a long time ago. That's possible. But oftentimes, history is written in real time. These are things like news publications, which that's hit or miss these days. But when something is written down in an effort to catalog what is happening, good journalism is an example of that. You could compare the author's other books. That's a good point that Fabio makes. Lane loves Jane Austen and has studied everything about her life, the period she lived, the history of the place, and many things. Yeah, that's exactly what you should do. So we're looking at environment. We're also looking at author. So the author, obviously for this story, is the wonderful Guy de Maupassant. The author is Guy de Maupassant, and we know that this person lived in France. Lived in France in the early 19th century. And I found some other facts in here that I just thought were kind of interesting. Wrote over 300 short stories and 6 novels. Was in the Franco-Prussian War as a clerk in the Navy, which is the Navy is the division of military that deals in aquatic warfare, boats, is the easiest way to think about it. So his first few short stories or novels were about the Franco-Prussian War. So when we learn that this author is writing about situations that they are living in, it gives us a clearer perspective on what this short story is going to be like. So we can imagine this writer writing a fiction story about something that could happen to their neighbor. It could be happening right now. French Leo asks, do we have to learn all about Mr. Maupassant, the whole life of the author, to understand the meaning or writing style? No, Not necessarily. You can understand a writing style or the meaning of a story without knowing anything about the author. But it does help in academics. In academics, we go a little bit deeper. So you can have a book club and read a book and understand the meaning of the story, and you can also understand the writing style and not even know if the author is a man or a woman. It isn't always important. You can know zero information about the author and still get good meaning from a story, still enjoy it, still understand it. But when we are talking about academics, we generally dive deeper into it. We go into deeper meaning. We don't just read a story, say, oh, that was a good story. It meant this, this, and this to me, and that's really cool. We usually say, okay, well, why was this written? How does this affect other people? It meant this to me, but what did it mean to you? What did it mean to you? What did it mean to you? We dig deeper to gain an even bigger understanding, if that makes sense. Okay, so you're going to look into his writing. Well, good news for you. We're going to get into his writing here really quick as well. So we look at the author, and then we look at the audience. Last part, audience. So who do you think Guy de Maupassant was writing for? Who was he writing for? Why did he write? So we can search this a little bit, see biography, significance, legacy, bibliography. There's a lot of interesting stuff in here. Maupassant is considered one of the fathers of the modern short story, so he was one of the first people to be writing the short story. He delighted in clever plotting and served as a model for Smrt. I don't know who this person is, another author, and O. Henry. I'm actually very familiar with O. Henry. I'm even related to O. Henry, actually. Great author as well. One of his famous short stories, The Necklace, was imitated with a twist by this author and also Henry James. So this person was someone who inspired other writers. Other writers read this work and then wrote their own versions of it. So it also says that he was fascinated by the discipline of psychiatry, and he attended public lectures. So he probably wrote for a few different reasons. He wrote to entertain, it sounds like. He delighted in clever plotting. So a lot of writers write to entertain. They write to get a rise out of their audience. So his audience, it sounds like, was the general public. He also had a very strong interest in psychiatry. If you read more about him, you'll know that he struggled with his own mental health, and he came from a very interesting family at the time where it was not common for a husband and a wife to separate because of the wife's decision, but she chose to leave her husband. His mom chose to leave his dad, which was a very strong, powerful thing for a woman to do at the time, but it also probably came with a lot of struggle. So he comes from a very strong mom who took it upon herself to step into a power position and raise him on her own after he was about 10 years old, I think. And so there's all these interesting family life events that helped fuel and create this story and all these other stories. This is a list of the stories that the author wrote. I mean, that's a huge list. Look at that. So these kind of give us clues into who the audience was, but for now I'm just going to say the audience was the general public at the time. So French people in French and I'll say European people in the 19th century. Okay? Yeah, it is a big list, right? JB has a book of his short stories. Hader says Edgar Allan Poe is known as the father of short stories. Well, yeah, I would agree. The American short story, though, really. Well, I think Edgar Allan Poe is American. Let me find out. I'm almost certain. Let's see. Yep, U.S. Okay. For a second, I thought Edgar Allan Poe maybe was British, but I don't know why. I guess I need more coffee. All right. So great discussion. We learned a little bit about history, and we learned a little bit about writers. And I would do more searching. I would say I look for a quick bio, look for biography of, I can't remember what search led there. We can always do more research, like use credible sources, try to find nice resources. I can give you some resources, or if you're a premium subscriber, you can also go into our library here and then go into learning tools, English resources, learning tools, and there's tons of resources for research and development as a student. Grammar videos, dictionaries, it goes on and on and on. Here's some of the learning tools that we can link to for different reasons. And there's page after page after page of those. All right, so some of you were saying, well, we've learned about the author, now I want to learn more about this book. I'm going to read for you some of this. I'm going to read for you some of this story so you can hear the pronunciation. And then I will kind of set you guys loose because we only have about 15 minutes of class. So let's read for about 5 minutes, and then we'll have about 10 minutes of discussion before we end class. Yes, I'm a water bottle. I like this kind of water, and it's green, so it's fun, huh? Anyway, I'm going to read to you guys for a little bit. I'm going to set a timer. We're going to set it for 5 minutes. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and read, and then we're going to talk about this. So, I'm going to get rid of my face here so that you can focus. And I'm going to try to show you where we are in the reading occasionally, okay? Here we go. She was one of those pretty and charming girls born as though fate had blundered over her into a family of artisans. She had no marriage portion, no expectations, no means of getting known, understood, loved, and wedded by a man of wealth and distinction. And she let herself be married off to a little clerk in the Ministry of Education. Her tastes were simple because she had never been able to afford any other, but she was as unhappy as though she had married beneath her, for women have no caste or class, their beauty, grace, and charm serving them for birth or family, their natural delicacy, their instinctive elegance, their nimbleness of wit, are their only mark of rank, and put the slum girl on a level with the highest lady in the land. She suffered endlessly, feeling herself born for every delicacy and luxury. She suffered from the poorness of her house, from its mean walls, worn chairs, and ugly curtains. All of these things, of which other women of her class would not have even have been aware, tormented and insulted her. The sight of the little Brighton girl who came to do the work in her little house aroused heartbroken regrets and hopeless dreams in her mind. She imagined silent antechambers, heavy with oriental tapestries lit by torches and lofty bronze sockets, and with 2 tall footmen in knee breeches sleeping in large armchairs overcome by the heavy warmth of the stove. She imagined vast saloons hung with antique silks, exquisite pieces of furniture supporting priceless ornaments, and small, charming, perfumed rooms, created just for little parties of intimate friends. Men who were famous and sought after, whose homage roused every other woman's envious longings. When she sat down for dinner at the round table covered with a 3 days old cloth, opposite her husband, who took the cover off the soup tureen, exclaiming delightedly, "Aha! Scotch broth! What could be better?" She imagined delicate meals, gleaming silver, tapestries, peopling the walls with folk of a past age, and strange birds in fairy forests. She imagined delicate food served in marvelous dishes, murmured gallantries, listened to with an inscrutable smile, as one trifled with the rosy flesh of trout or wings of asparagus chicken. So I'm going to pause here. Look at our timer. Okay, that was 3 minutes. And this first page, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening. Because I know that there's a lot of vocabulary here that's probably unfamiliar to you, which is okay. I would say that if I gave this story to any freshman in college, any American freshman, there would be a lot of words that they don't know. There's a lot of academic vocabulary. There's a lot of contextual vocabulary. There's a lot of language that is very appropriate for 19th century America or 19th century France, but is less common now. So some of these words we don't use in this way as often anymore, but it's still important to study and to know. So Shakuri says that was a bit fast, probably, but it's a video, remember, so you can go back and you can watch it again if you need to. So I want to talk about what's happening here so that you can sort of understand a little bit more about the vocabulary. So this first paragraph basically says that this is a girl who believes she was born into a part of society that she had no chance, no possibility to marry someone who is, rich and wealthy and could provide all these things. So she feels sad for herself right away. And then the second paragraph sort of reinforces this. It says she lives in this house and she just suffers constantly. She's not on the streets, she's not destitute, but she doesn't have all the things she wants. So she's living a life where she wants more, and she just feels sad about it. She feels very sad for herself. And then we meet the husband. We meet this man who sits down. He seems like a happy guy. He sits down at a table that has a 3 days old cloth, which is supposed to further support the idea that they don't wash their dinner cloth every night. It's something that's reused. Kind of like if you don't wash your clothes every time you wear them a few times. I do that because, why waste the water? Why waste the time and money and effort and energy? But she's saying, oh, no, this is a bad thing. And the husband sits down and he says, oh, awesome, soup. I love it. I'm so happy. This is great. A great dinner. I'm so excited. The husband's really happy about it. But the wife, she's like, oh, I'm just so sad. Boo-hoo, woe is me. So she's very unhappy. That's the idea. So I'm going to read the next page, and then we're going to talk about that, and then we'll do some general discussion and be done for the day. So let's get going again. She had no clothes, no jewels, nothing, and these were the only things she loved. She felt that she was made for them. She had longed so eagerly to charm, to be desired, to be wildly attractive and sought after. She had a rich friend, an old school friend whom she refused to visit, because she suffered so keenly when she returned home. She would weep whole days with grief, regret, despair, and misery. One evening, Her husband came home with an exultant air, holding a large envelope in his hand. "Here's something for you," he said. Swiftly, she tore the paper and drew out a printed card on which these words. "The Minister of Education and Madame Rapinoe request the pleasure of the company of Monsieur and Madame Loisel at the Ministry on the evening of Monday, January the 18th. Instead of being delighted, as her husband hoped, she flung the invitation petulantly across the table, murmuring, "What do you want me to do with this?" "Why, darling, I thought you'd be pleased. You never go out, and this is a great occasion. I had tremendous trouble to get it. Everyone wants one. It's very select, and very few go to the clerks. You'll see all the really big people there." She looked at him out of furious eyes and said impatiently, "And what do you suppose I am supposed to wear at such an affair?" He had not thought about it. He stammered, Why, the dress you go to the theater in. It looks very nice to me." He stopped, stupefied and utterly at loss, when he saw that his wife was beginning to cry. 2 large tears ran slowly down from the corners of her eyes towards the corners of her mouth. "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?" he faltered. But with a violent effort, she overcame her grief and replied in a calm voice, wiping her wet cheeks, "Nothing, only I haven't a dress, so I can't go to this party. Give your invitation to some friend of yours whose wife will be turned out better than I shall." He was heartbroken. Okay, so what happens there? The husband, he gets excited because he sees that she's sad, and he realizes that she's not happy, so he does something that he thinks will make her happy. He says, "Look, I got this invitation for you. It's a really exclusive invitation. Not a lot of people get to go. All the fancy people are going to be there. I see that you're kind of sad and you're not happy that we don't have fancy things. So look, here you go. Look what I got for you. I tried really, really hard to get it." And she says, "What am I supposed to do with this?" She's upset because she doesn't think she's going to have a dress to wear that will be fancy enough for the party. And so she feels even more sad. And the husband's like, "Oh my gosh, what do I need to do? I see that you're sad. I want to make you feel better. I got this fancy invitation that was really hard to get, and you're more sad?" So he's trying to understand. JB says, "I love this story." It is. It's a great story. A lot more happens. So she doesn't have a dress, and so the husband is a really nice guy, and he's just saying, "Okay, you don't have a dress. I'll get you a dress. I'll get you. It costs 400 francs, but he'll get a dress with that money." He wanted to go. He'd been saving up to buy a gun to go hunting next year with his friends, and he says, "You know what? That money that I saved up for my gun that I was gonna buy, I'm gonna go get you a dress with that, so you can go to this fancy party," which is really nice. And so she kind of gets excited, and then she's still sad because she says, "Well, I don't want to go with a nice dress and a bunch of women without something fancy to wear for jewelry." And she's really worried about her appearance, French Leo. You're right. So she says, "I don't have any jewelry." And the husband says, "Oh my gosh, just go to your friend. Go to your friend, Forrester, and ask her to lend you some jewels. You know her well, and she'll let you borrow a necklace for the night." So she's like, "Oh my gosh, that's awesome." So she goes and sees her friend. Her friend brings out a big box and opens the box and says, "Hey, what do you want? I got a bunch of stuff." She discovers in a black satin case, this really, really beautiful diamond necklace. And she looks at it and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best necklace I've ever seen in my life." So she puts it around her neck and she's like, "Yep, this is the one." So she says, "Could you just lend me just this one necklace, please? Please?" And her friend's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So she gives her a big hug and she's like, all right, see you later. She goes to the party. And then that's where the real adventure starts of this story. I'm not going to tell you what happens. I want you guys to finish the story on your own before next week's class. We're going to do one more lesson on this story. I was just going to try to do it in 2 classes, but we've kind of just got to the most exciting part. So I want you to do a little bit more research about the author, about the time that this short story was written, and just to better understand what society was like. What was the situation like, the life situation for these characters? We're going to go over some vocabulary of fiction next class. For homework, we have, I want you to study more about the author, the story, the author, and the context of when the story was written. And I want you to come up with 5 interesting facts or bits of information to share with me before next class. Next class, sorry if you can't see this, I can zoom in a little bit. Next class, we are going to study terms of fiction, so vocabulary of studying fiction. Finish the necklace. And we're going to end with a discussion about analytical reading, academic reading. Okay, so that is our plan for next week. Next class, we're going to study terms used in literature and fiction. We're going to finish the necklace story, and we're going to discuss analytical academic reading. So we're going to kind of wrap everything up next week. It's going to be the last class on this story. I would love suggestions as to what you want to study next. I haven't decided 100%. I have some suggestions from students, but please share with me your ideas for studying. Look at our list of options in 140. So scroll through here. We could study lesson on nerve cells, on cloning, health and obesity, homelessness. We could do a reading on addiction, social issues and homelessness. Again, there's some more options. Environmental deforestation, so ecology, biology, the environment. We could study global warming, or we could do another story. We could do The Old Man and the Sea again. We could do Animal Farm. Animal Farm would be a long class. It'd be a series of at least 4 or 5 classes. But we could get into that if enough people want to do it. We could study test-taking skills and strategy. We could take a break and do like a TOEFL class or an IELTS class. So some people say Animal Farm. Sway wants APA. We could go back to APA. Shakuri wants The Boarded Window. I haven't read that. That could be fun. A new story. JB still has notes from school. And Sway's going to go watch Alien. It's a good one. The new one, it's pretty good. I liked it. Okay, so I think a lot of you are up for it, but I want emails. I want to take an actual survey. I'm going to see who takes the time to either message me, not just in this chat, but message me on Facebook or better yet, send me an email. My email is joshua.live@smartenglish.com. Send me an email. Once again, that is joshua.live@smartenglish.com. If you send me an email and say, hey, I want to study bleh, I will do my best to include that next time. So, or consider it for the next classes that are coming up. JB likes everything except Animal Farm because it's too long. It is long. It would take a while. Like I said, it would take a few weeks at least. Old Man on the Sea. We didn't we do that already? I swear we did Old Man on the Sea already. If we haven't, that could be fun. I know that we've done To Build a Fire by Jack London. That was a fun one. Mark Twain. Or Mark's twin. Sarbajit already sent me one. So make sure you do too. French Leo, yes, for sure. I agree. And I hope everybody has a good rest of your week. Same time, same place next week. I'll be here. Make sure to send me your suggestions. And all right. Yeah, take care. If you guys haven't signed up as a premium subscriber, please do that too. If you go to smartenglish.com/live/live, these are your classes you can sign up for. Send Zach an email. It's Zach@smartenglish, SMRTENGLISH.com, and he can hook you up as well. So, yep, that is everything. That's Zach's email, smartenglish.com/live/live. Check out that link if you want to become a premium subscriber. Otherwise, thanks again, everybody. So awesome that you're here. A teacher is nothing without their students. So you guys make this class happen. I'm very grateful for you. Thank you for being here as always, and I will see you next time. Here's a short message from Sean.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our channel. Also, if you want the full experience of being a student in a Smrt Live class with things like homework and teacher feedback, follow the link and become a premium subscriber. Also, if you want to see more videos from this class, check out our playlist.